Angela Brown was used to waking up before the sun. Every morning, she would lace up her old shoes, tie her hair back, and take her son Malik by the hand. The city was still half asleep when they stepped onto the first bus, but Angela's day had already begun. She worked as a cleaner for the Westons, a wealthy family who lived in a house that smelled like perfume and cold marble. Every surface shone, every corner whispered, "You don't belong here." Angela didn't complain. She needed the job. Her husband had left years ago, and life had taught her to stand tall even when the world looked down. Malik, her 10-year-old boy, always came with her. She couldn't afford a babysitter, and she refused to leave him alone at home. So he would sit quietly in the corner with a book, his legs tucked under him, his big brown eyes watching his mother move from room to room. Mrs. Weston never liked that. To her, the boy was an inconvenience, a reminder that the people who cleaned her floors were also human beings with hearts, dreams, and children. "Mrs. Brown," she would say sharply, "this is not a daycare. Please make sure your son doesn't touch anything valuable." Angela would smile softly, the kind of smile that hides pain. "Yes, ma'am, I understand." Malik would lower his eyes, embarrassed, even though he had done nothing wrong. He didn't understand why kindness seemed like a crime in this house. One morning, as Angela scrubbed the kitchen tiles, Malik tried to help. He picked up a cloth and began wiping the dust from a shelf. A small photo frame slipped from his fingers and hit the floor. The glass cracked. The sound of it echoed through the hall like thunder. Mrs. Weston appeared instantly, her face twisted with anger. "What did you do?" she snapped. Malik froze. He whispered, "I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean," but she cut him off. "Of course, you didn't mean to. You people never do. Always breaking, never building. I should have known better than to allow this." Angela's hands shook, but she stood between them. "Please, Mrs. Weston. It was an accident. I'll pay for it." Mrs. Weston folded her arms. "Oh, don't bother. You couldn't afford it anyway." The words struck deeper than any slap could. Angela nodded silently. She finished her work without another word, though her chest burned with humiliation. When they finally left the house, the sky was heavy with rain. Malik held her hand tightly as they walked to the bus stop. He looked up at her, his small voice trembling. "Mom, are we bad people?" Angela stopped, kneeling so she could look him in the eyes. Her clothes were soaked, her hands rough from years of cleaning, but her gaze was steady and full of warmth. "No, baby," she said softly. "We're not bad. They just can't see past their mirrors. One day, you'll show them who you are. Not with anger, but with greatness." Malik blinked through the raindrops. "Do you really think so?" Angela smiled, brushing a tear from his cheek. "I know so. Because you already shine, my son. You just need time for the world to notice." That night, while Malik slept, Angela sat by the window with a cup of tea she could barely afford. She thought about the way Mrs. Weston looked at her like she was invisible, replaceable, disposable. But she also thought about Malik's small hands trying to help her, his quiet courage, his love that nothing could buy or break. She whispered to herself, "One day, he'll rise above this. One day, they'll remember our names." And when morning came again, she woke before the dawn, tied her hair back, and went to work, her heart still bruised, but not broken. Because she carried within her something stronger than anger, the dignity of a mother who refuses to let the world define her worth. In that house of mirrors and marble, they saw only her uniform, but Angela knew that true grace doesn't wear silk or shine under chandeliers. It lives in the quiet strength of those who keep standing no matter how many times they're made to bow. As she swept the hallway the next day, Mrs. Weston passed by without a word. Angela didn't look up. She didn't need to. She already knew that every stroke of her broom, every quiet breath, was building something far greater than a clean floor. It was building a future. And though no one else could see it yet, she could. In the face of her son, in the promise of his eyes. That one day, the same world that called her less than would have to look up to him and see her reflection in his success. Angela smiled to herself, not out of pride, but of peace. Because deep down, she understood something the Westons never would: that dignity doesn't come from wealth or titles or marble walls. It comes from love, sacrifice, and the unshakable belief that even the smallest voice can echo through generations. And with that thought, she kept working quietly, gracefully, broken. 20 years had passed. The rain, the cleaning rags, the quiet humiliation, all of it lived only in memory now. Malik Brown was no longer the boy who hid in the corner of a rich woman's house. He was 30 years old now, tall, composed, confident, an engineer turned entrepreneur, the founder of a rising tech company known for innovation and integrity. He had built his career from nothing but persistence and his mother's faith. Every success, every late night at his desk, was for her. Angela no longer scrubbed floors for people who couldn't see her worth. Now, she worked at a local shelter, helping others get back on their feet the same way she once had to. Her son visited often, bringing groceries, flowers, and stories of business meetings that stretched into the night. She always listened with pride shining quietly in her eyes. "Just remember, Malik," she'd say softly, "what you build with kindness lasts longer than what they build with pride." One morning, Malik received a formal letter embossed with gold lettering and a familiar name at the top. Weston Industries. For a long moment, he just stared at it. He hadn't heard that name in years. The same family that once looked down on him now wanted to meet for a potential merger. He smiled faintly, remembering the boy who used to stand barefoot on their marble floors. The irony wasn't lost on him. But he didn't feel bitterness, only curiosity. So he accepted the invitation. A week later, he walked through the glass doors of the Weston headquarters, a towering building of steel and light. Receptionists greeted him with rehearsed smiles. Executives whispered his name. He was the man everyone wanted to impress. In the meeting room, sunlight poured over polished wood and city views. At the far end of the table sat an older woman, elegant, poised, but with the unmistakable edge of time in her posture. Mrs. Weston. Her once golden hair was silver now, tied in a neat bun. Her blue eyes, once sharp with superiority, now held a cautious distance. She extended a hand with professional courtesy. "Mr. Brown, welcome. It's an honor to meet you." He took her hand briefly, nodding. "The honor's mutual, Mrs. Weston." The meeting began. Financial projections, integration plans, projected returns numbers and graphs filled the room. Malik spoke clearly, confidently. He didn't need to prove anything, the work spoke for itself. But as he talked, Mrs. Weston grew quieter, studying his face. There was something familiar about his voice, his calm precision, the steady grace with which he carried himself. And then it hit her. "Wait," she interrupted softly. "Brown, Malik Brown. Your mother wouldn't happen to be Angela Brown, would she?" He looked at her, a small, knowing smile touching his lips. "Yes, ma'am, she would." The silence that followed was heavy, not with awkwardness, but with realization. Her breath caught as the years rewound in her mind. A young boy, a broken frame, a mother's quiet apology. The woman she had dismissed without a thought. Mrs. Weston's voice faltered. "Your mother, she worked for us, didn't she?" "She did," he said simply. "For a while, until you decided she didn't belong." There was no accusation in his tone, only truth. He wasn't angry. He didn't need to be. Life had already written the lesson in ink, far darker than resentment. She leaned back in her chair, her polished confidence fading for the first time. I remember now. You were that little boy who used to sit by the window." He nodded. "Reading, while she worked." "Yes, ma'am, that was me." Mrs. Weston swallowed, searching for words. "Well, you've certainly come a long way." He met her gaze, steady, kind, but unflinching. "My mother used to say the world tests people not to break them, but to show what's inside." I guess she was right. The rest of the meeting went on, but the energy had shifted. Every word seemed to echo with something unspoken, a quiet reckoning between past and present. By the time the contracts were ready to sign, Mrs. Weston's hands trembled slightly. Malik's didn't. He moved with the same calm assurance that once defined his mother, dignity born not of wealth, but of strength. When the deal was finalized, she stood to shake his hand again. But this time, her voice was softer. "Your mother must be very proud of you." He smiled gently. "She always was, even when we had nothing." He paused at the door, then turned back. "And I'll make sure she knows you remember her." Outside, The sun had started to set, a warm gold spilling over the skyline. He walked to his car, feeling a quiet peace settle over him. He didn't need revenge. He didn't need an apology. He had something better: his mother's lessons, his own success, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that dignity had finally outlasted judgment. Because in the end, history has a way of turning full circle, and sometimes, the hands that once wiped away dust from marble floors are the same hands that signed the contracts to buy the building. The day of the grand opening arrives. The city buzzes with excitement, cameras flashing, guests arriving in elegant suits. For Angela, it feels surreal. She walks through the glass doors of her son's new headquarters, every step echoing the journey she's taken from cleaning floors to standing in a building that carries her son's name. The air smells of fresh paint and new beginnings. Malik greets her with a warm smile, taking her hand gently. His eyes shine with pride and tenderness. "Mom," he whispers, "this is for you." Angela looks around, her heart swelling. She can still remember those mornings when she carried cleaning supplies, the scent of polish clinging to her hands. Now, those same hands are held by the man she raised, the one who turned her quiet strength into his own power. As the ceremony begins, Malik steps onto the stage. The room falls silent. His voice is calm but carries emotion that trembles beneath every word. "When I was a boy," he begins, "I watched my mother work harder than anyone I've ever known. She was judged, not for what she did, but for who she was. People saw her as small, but I saw something else. I saw greatness wrapped in humility." He pauses, his eyes finding Angela in the front row. She sits tall, her smile trembling with pride. "Everything you see here today," Malik continues, "exists because one woman refused to let the world define her worth. She taught me that true dignity isn't measured in wealth, but in kindness, integrity, and love. That woman is my mother." Applause fills the hall. Some stand, some wipe tears. Angela lowers her head, overwhelmed, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Malik steps down from the stage and embraces her. The crowd watches, but in that moment, it's just the two of them, mother and son, finally standing as equals before the world. At the edge of the crowd, a familiar face watches in silence. Mrs. Weston. Her once proud posture seems smaller now, her gaze soft and remorseful. She hesitates, then walks forward, each step heavy with memory. When she reaches Angela, her voice trembles. "I remember you," she says quietly. "You used to clean my house, and I treated you unfairly. I was cruel. Seeing you now, I realize how wrong I was." Angela meets her eyes, steady and calm. "Life has a way of teaching us," she replies gently. "We all make mistakes. What matters is what we learn from." Mrs. Weston's eyes glisten. "Your son, he's remarkable. You must be so proud." Angela smiles softly. "I am, but not because of what he's built. Because of who he became." For a moment, the two women stand in silence, one humbled, one gracious. Around them, laughter and celebration fill the air. But between them, there's something deeper: understanding. Later, as the evening sun spills gold through the tall windows, Malik and Angela step outside together. The city glows beneath them. Skyscrapers, traffic, life in motion. "Do you ever think about those days, Mom?" Malik asks. "When it was just us, cleaning houses, saving pennies." Angela laughs softly. "Every day. Those were hard times, but they shaped us. You learned what it means to build something real, not from privilege, but from perseverance." He nods, looking at her with affection. "You gave me everything, Mom. Even when we had nothing." She shakes her head. "No, Malik. You gave me everything. You gave meaning to all the days I thought were wasted." He takes her hand. "We made it, didn't we?" Angela looks up at him, the boy who used to carry her cleaning rags, now a man admired by many. Her eyes glisten, but her smile is peaceful. "We did," she whispers, "but never forget where you came from. Success means nothing if you lose your heart along the way." They stand together in silence, watching the world they fought to find. Somewhere deep inside, the echoes of the past still live: the rain, the harsh words, the quiet tears. But now, those memories no longer sting. They shine. Inside the building, A large photo hangs in the lobby, a candid shot of Angela and Malik smiling together. Beneath it, a simple plaque reads, "Built not from wealth, but from love." And as people pass, some pause to look, others smile without knowing the story. But those who do, those who remember the woman who once carried a mop through those same streets, they understand the quiet miracle before them. The mother once judged for her poverty now stands as the living proof of grace. The son once pitied for his beginnings now leads with compassion, not pride. In the end, Malik turns to her and says softly, "You were right, Mom. They didn't see us then, but they do now." Angela's voice is barely above a whisper. "Let them see, son, but never forget we were always enough, even when they couldn't see it." And in that moment, framed by the golden light of dusk, surrounded by the hum of the city, their story closes not with triumph, but with peace. Because dignity, once born of pain, never fades. It only shines brighter with time.